What's up? So we're just going to increase this look a little bit today. Um, didn't get a chance to do all that I wanted to do earlier with this makeup. So this is me just playing around this afternoon, this evening rather. Just doing some touch-ups, doing some things a little different than what I originally had. One thing that I did, for instance, already was to darken my eyebrows. Now, typically, I like to use Anastasia Dip Brow, which is in dark brown. So let me give you a tip. So I've had it for a while, and there was a point in time where I must have not closed the top tightly, so it had dried out a little bit. So what I've done was just put a drop of oil in it, and it rejuvenated my dip brow pomade, so I didn't have to buy another one. So if you have something of a sort, brow powder, pomade rather, and it's dried out, just put a drop of oil in it. You don't want to put too much because you don't want it to be so runny and your eyebrows to be all greasy and glossy. So just one little droplet, and just I like to follow in with an angled brush, okay, when I do my eyebrows. So this here is an angled brush. So that is how I define my brows, of course. And a tip that I always like to share when it comes to doing your brows and you don't draw them on smoothly, don't worry about it, because you can use your concealer as an eraser. So some of the products that I like to use in regards to concealers would be this brand here, Estee Lauder. It's called Double Wear Concealer. However, they do not make this particular brand or kind anymore. I'm sure they have another concealer. As a matter of fact, they do. But this particular one is very rich and pigmented. It's very pasty. And they have various shades. So I like to use this as a concealer. So I'm going to use this one on my eyebrows. Another product review that I like to use on my as a concealer would be Juvia's Place. Now these come in various shades as well. This one is number 9. Okay, so they have tons of shades for concealers. So you can do this as a concealer to cover up blemishes. Of course, you wouldn't get such a light color, but the purpose that I like to use a lighter shade is for underneath my eyes to highlight, as well as an eyeshadow primer. Okay, so to each his own. Okay, but I like to use this particular one sometimes too as an eyeshadow primer, as well as Too Faced eyeshadow primer. So this is a very good one as well. It comes out white, does have a little creamy texture, but it dries super fast. Now I just put a little pin drop, and just so you can see how that little bit spreads, and it dries really quickly. And then when you put your eyeshadows on top of that, of course, you can tell the difference in using an eyeshadow primer versus just putting the eyeshadow onto your skin directly. Another thing that I started to do here lately is to use Elmer's glue on my eyebrows. Now, I don't know if you've seen any reviews or people doing Elmer's glue on their brows, but if you think back, way back, drag queens started using Elmer's glue on their eyebrows. And so in the beginning, of course, before I do anything as far as makeup, I always start with my eyebrows, to each his own. But what I do is I'll just take this Elmer's glue, run it back and forth through both my brows, and then I'll grab a spoolie to smooth it out and lay my brows flat. So then I'll grab a spoolie like so and just brush that product, that glue, through the brows and let them lay down flat. And then I'll go on with my Anastasia Dip Brow and then my concealer. So of course I've done all of that already earlier today. And just wanted to give you some reviews on some products that I use in regards to eyes. Let's just say with the eyes first. Another concealer that I like to use as an eyeshadow primer would be Pro Concealer, LA Girl Pro Concealer. Of course, you can buy these at the beauty supply. These are, or Walgreens even. Now they're like $2.99 or $3.99. They've gone up. So I have this particular brand in various shades. Also, this particular brand also has color correcting shades in green and in orange as well. But I like to use this as a concealer for the for my brows, to kind of define my eyebrows. Now, when I do use this particular one, as well as the Estee Lauder one, on my eyes as an eyeshadow primer, of course, it's very creamy, okay? So with that being said, once I set that on my eye, you could use your finger, you can use a beauty blender, or you can use a concealer brush, which I love, absolutely love this Morphe concealer brush. I can't see these colors, unfortunately, but nonetheless, this particular concealer brush is fire. It buffs out your concealer so well. So here's another good one. So of course, as I was saying, when you use such a creamy textured concealer as an eyeshadow primer, you want to go ahead and use like your beauty blender, and then follow up with an eyeshadow neutral color, or even like your banana powder, setting powder, or another one that I use as a setting powder would be Revolution. This one is in deep dark. And then I also use Juvia's Place, honey. I got the top off, but I got some Juvia's Place setting powder as well. And the reason why you will use setting powder after after such creamy textured concealer is because it's very creamy and it will crease. So you don't want your eyeshadows to crease and bubble up where the fold of your eye is. So just a little information that I want to share with you guys as far as little tips. I found another one. I also have Too Faced Born This Way concealer. As you see, this one is darker. And I could use this one underneath my eyes as well, and to kind of contour my nose. This one I wouldn't necessarily use, even though it's darker. I wouldn't necessarily use this one as a, as a concealer to cover a blemish. However, I do have a few blemishes here that you can use a concealer for, but of course it will need to be darker than that shade, which in turn is darker than the blemishes that I have. But of course you can't see them, huh? So anyway, just a few of the concealers, my preference. Of course, I want you to try and figure out what you like in regards to a concealer. What are you using it for? What shade? What consistency that you like? There are different factors as to different concealers that you can use. So check out a few, try it on the back of your hand if you're out shopping at the mall or at the beauty store, and see what works for you. Of course, they got multi-uses for different concealers and different brands. Just find what it is that you like so that you can perfect eventually, what it is that you need to use a concealer for. Okay, so that's just a few little items that I like to use in regards to concealers. So if you have any questions, of course, you can certainly hit me up. I'll be glad to answer any questions and give you my thoughts and reviews on products that I like to use. So then you can in turn find out what these products will do for you. Okay, so let me get finished working on this face here, and then I'll be back.